mankind and the elements. For some, it's an uncomfortable bond.
We could just be taken out at any time, no doubt about it.
For others, when weather strikes, inspiration begins.
Dude, this is it right here. If they get a wave.
These are the people who challenge nature, seek out its limits, reveal its secrets, and embrace its awesome power. In this episode, we'll meet an explorer scaling peaks in the most remote edges of the world to go where no one has gone before.
If I make a mistake on this climb or on this expedition, I die.
An artist who created the world's first underwater museum to give struggling marine life a new home.
You can't get a better co-collaborator than nature.
And a surf photographer who battled violent conditions and near constant darkness in search of the perfect image. These pioneers of the great outdoors ahead on That's Amazing. Adventure photographer Chris Burkhardt is an expert in photographing surfers riding the coldest, most punishing waves on the planet. He's accustomed to battling the elements in his work, but one storm in Iceland nearly broke him.
It was like Armageddon. We had basically just been, totally beaten to shreds. I mean, it was total darkness.
The storm canceled Burkhardt's expedition, but the decision to stay in Iceland resulted in a once-in-a-lifetime photographic opportunity that he never expected.
Dude, this is it right here.
He managed to capture an epic adventure under the greatest light show on Earth.
If you look at the Northern Lights and you don't question your place in the world, then there's something dead inside you.
I can't believe that has happened.
I grew up kind of frolicking along the coast here in Central California. I would drive up the coast and try to surf with my friends in these remote little beaches and stuff. And to be honest, that really set the precedent for me that I wanted to just go explore. I first picked up a camera right around the age of, I think, 18, 19. I realized this was it. This was the perfect medium for expression. This was as good as it could get. When I grew up, I didn't have a passport, never traveled internationally. And as I realized that photography could be this tool to see the world, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This could be my ticket.
After years of photographing in stunning beach towns around the world, Burkhardt decided to shift his focus to colder climates.
I had the dream job. And then I realized that I want to document places that might not be around forever. I want to share the experience of the importance of seeing these places, because I want people to know that these places are out there. There's been a lot of 0-degree days, a lot of days where you're standing on the beach or shooting somewhere on a mountainside and your organs are hurting because it's so cold, and you're touching metal equipment and your hands are just getting brittle and cracked. It's type 2 fun, you look back and you chuckle, but in the moment it's pretty brutal. You want to be somewhere else. My work has taken me to some of the harshest environments on the planet, and I seek out some of the last places on Earth where you can really find these raw environments.
Of all the places he's been, one trip to Iceland pushed him closest to his breaking point. What started off as a trip to photograph epic waves became an epic battle with the elements.
This last winter, during the darkest and coldest time of year, we set out to Iceland. I didn't really have any idea of how it would go. There was this one location, this remote national park that I wanted to go access. All I knew is that there was a boat captain that was willing to take us there. We finally made it to that remote bay, this national park. We're sitting there in the boat and we're looking at this wave. It was everything we had hoped for. The captain came out and said that the largest storm in 25 years was coming right now. And we literally had to turn and hightail out of there back to the harbor. The weather changed like that. And it was like Armageddon. People were just getting food storage and stocking up. All the flights were grounded, so we made this decision that we were going to drive 11 hours to the next safe town so we don't come home empty-handed. We were all just defeated, but still knew there was like something else out there for us, and we just knew that we wanted to play it out. That was probably not the smartest call. We weren't where we originally planned. We were like forced to stay a little bit longer. And after that storm subsided, we realized that with that storm brought incredible surf. And not only that, but the Northern Lights route. If the weather could just hold off for that much longer, this would be something that would be in the history books. I convinced one of the guys to go out. The hardest thing was just keeping my focus. What I was seeing, was these amazing patterns of blue and orange and red and green, trickling in the sky.
This is maybe one of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life.
So every so often I'd get lost just staring at the sky, and somebody would holler and I would look and see him, and I'd be like, okay, here it is.
There we go, Ben, someone's going.
You're just shivering, you're sitting there, you're kind of like basically going through all the emotions. But for me, anything worth pursuing is gonna require you to suffer a little bit.
Oh, we did it!
I can't believe that I actually got you to go out there.
Through all that, we came away with this experience that was actually far better than anything we could have ever planned for. It changed everything I thought about what was possible. I aim nothing more than to simply just document the beauty of the world. If a photograph that somebody sees is powerful enough to make them go somewhere they've never been, be outside of their comfort zone, spend their time, that's what I speak to, is like how we can do that more. I guess we want to just inspire future generations to be willing to thrust themselves into situations like that, be willing to go when everything else says not to. Even when all the odds are stacked against you, you can still create something beautiful.
Every day, whenever I hear that buzzer, it just gets your blood flowing, your heart pumping, and you just take off at a sprint. You really don't know what you're getting into until you can see the fire. You're jumping out of a plane, that's always going to induce a little bit of adrenaline.
There are few professions that captivate us like smoke jumping, and this is a woman who's been doing it for over a decade.
My name is Ramona Biyuka, and I am a McCall smoke jumper in McCall, Idaho.
The job of a firefighter is dangerous, but jumping out of a plane to contain a blaze takes this job to a whole new level.
There's always a possibility that something could go wrong, so they definitely still get nervous. We fly in a Twin Otter with the door off. We're all wearing earplugs, and everyone's kind of in their own world at that point.
And this flight can take up to a few hours, but it becomes clear when the danger is close.
Usually you smell that smoke. It's that piney, wood-burning smell. You know that it's go time. You get in the door, and your heart is pounding, and I don't even really think about it. I just go out of the plane. I try not to look at the ground or the fire at that point. You're just super focused.
Now they fight the fire. And despite the risks, it's a job Ramona loves doing.
I've been to so many forest fires, and every jump is different. It is extremely dynamic out there. That adrenaline is something that's a big part of keeping me coming back. I do stop and think, wow, I am really lucky to be in this job.
High in the mountains of Ecuador, one man is continuing the 500-year-old tradition of harvesting glacial ice. Reaching the top of Mount Chimborazo by foot is a treacherous all-day journey. It is not for the faint of heart. And although the demand for glacial ice is dwindling, 73-year-old Baltazar Oscar Tenesaka refuses to call it quits.
Hasta acá se tiene un ánimo, tenemos ánimo de trabajar. Yo soy Baltasar Oscar Tenesaka, ultimate leader de Chimborazo.
Chimborazo is a dormant volcano in Ecuador. It's higher than Mount Everest if measured from the center of the earth. The tradition of harvesting the ice in this region began with the Spanish during the colonial times. They will send the native people to retrieve the ice, to use it to make ice cream, to cool the drinks, and even to keep meat fresh.
Yo desde 15 años, desde Bamblet. Trabajamos antes bastante familiares. Andábamos con papi, con mami, con hermano, bastante.
20, 30 years ago, there were still many people going up every day of the week, bringing the ice to the lowlands. Now, Baltasar is the last one because people make their own ice or they buy the ice from the ice factories.
But Baltasar continues to work because glacial ice is unique.
Ese hielo, miles de años, agua mineral, tiene sabor, no es como hielo de fábrica. Ese hielo de Chimborazo, ese hielo propio, tiene sabor, agua mineral, es bonito. Ese bueno para tora, para chuchaque. Ese hielo propio. Eso yo me gusta. Por eso yo no dejamos el trabajo.
I knew when I met Baltasar that this was something very, very special. It was something that you don't see in any other place. To do physical work at that altitude is amazing. It's amazing. That makes of Baltasar's work, I think, one of the hardest works in Earth, really.
Ya salimos, 7 de la mañana. El camino solo cuesta parado nomás. Para subir a Menadelo, camino es duro. Cuando llegamos a Menadelo, al Chimborazo, destapando tierra, piedra, destapando, hacemos lo que se hizo cuadrado con pico. Es hielo, lo que es grande, es pesado, está pesado como piedra. Envolvemos con paqueta ya para hacer cargar boletos. Este hielo envuelto con paqueta no daría mucho, poquito, daría. Este trabajo peligroso, trabajo duro, es trabajo mío. Una vez pasamos un accidente, se avanza cualquier pie, es lo que es grande. Golpes del balón, se avanza cualquier pie. Contra piedra, quebró un pie. A mí no me da miedo, no dan miedo. Para mí, este Chimborazo, a mí cuidan.
We call Chimborazo Taita Chimborazo, which is Father Chimborazo. And being the highest volcano in Ecuador, we have a lot of respect and love for Chimborazo.
In the nearly 60 years Baltasar has been harvesting ice, conditions in the region have changed dramatically due to climate change.
Antes había bastante frío había antes. El boleto murió con frío en Menadielo. Poquito no hay ahora frío, como tiempo cambiado.
It has become warmer. The glaciers are receding at the rate of 20 to 30 meters a year. The conditions around the ice mine are very harsh. He works right under the big rocks. With the melting of the ice, those rocks get loose and they roll down. So yeah, there are danger of avalanches. As he grows older, I worry for Baltasar, yeah.
But Baltasar does not worry. His only concern is delivering ice to his remaining few vendors in the Riobamba market.
Antes por semana, diario andábamos. Semana 5 días. Ahora semana 2 días nomás, 2 veces nomás. Hay mercado, ya tenemos casera propio. Cada lo que me pagan en Ecuador, como ellos mismos tienen en las fábricas, no se paga algo más. Mercado, eso utiliza para fresco, para jugo, con hielo sembrado. Con hielo mío, ese jugo bonito, suavito, bonito, y dulce.
Yo compro el hielo del Chimborazo más o menos unos 55 años y más. Es una tradición riobambeña, es la única en el Ecuador porque el chimborazo es nuestro. Yo me siento muy orgullosa de trabajar con Baltasar, que Dios me dé salud y vida, seguiré comprando el hielo.
Yo paso contenta con Manavier, bonito tema. Para mí, trayendo hielo, orgulloso, y orgulloso trabajo. Hasta que yo, se tienen ánimo de trabajar, trayendo hielo.
During the annual crab migration, all of Christmas Island is seeing red. Christmas Island, located in the Pacific Ocean near Australia, is known for its warm tropical climate. Throughout most of the year, its endemic red crabs can be found on the rainforest floor. But each year in late October, the adult crabs begin a spectacular mass migration from the rainforest to the coast to breed and release eggs into the sea. This synchronized breeding of about 40 million crabs takes over the tiny island. They take their cues from a unique combination of weather and the movement of the moon. As the rains of the monsoon wet season return, they begin their journey. The crabs arrive at the coast, where they dig burrows for mating. And then the females release their eggs into the sea, just as the high tide from the new moon hits the shore. These crabs are so reliant on these seasonal cues that if the wet season doesn't arrive on time, the crabs will not spawn until the next lunar month. They make their migrations without much care for road rules or streets, which results in incredible and slightly startling waves of red crabs moving across the island. In some of the world's coldest climates, teams of men and women don helmets, eye protection, and warm clothes and head out into the snowy terrain to prepare for a battle against the elements and each other. What is this form of frigid weather fighting, you ask? They call it Yukigassen.
Yuki means snow, Gassen is war. That's why we are here now.
Established in 1988 as a way to encourage tourism to Japan in the winter months, what was once a kid's game is now a hardcore sport played in 8 countries.
They give us a present. This is Yukigassen. We are now here in Kemijärvi, in Arctic Circle, because we are so north, we have snow, and we can good play Yukigassen every day or every weekend.
Kemijärvi is famous for holding the European Yukigassen tournament each year. It is here that 3 Japanese players have flown in for a scrimmage against 3 local Finnish Yukigassen players.
Take your position. They have 1 snowball each hand, and referee whistle, they start and they try to hit.
Yukigassen is a best of 3 rounds game. Players who are hit by a single snowball are out of the round. To win, players must either steal the flag from the opposing team or eliminate all their players with snowballs.
Yukigassen is very tactic play. You don't have to be strong. You must be small and very quickly, and you must have a very good hand.
Teams play with regulation-approved snowballs made by machines. The perfect playing condition is just below freezing, so the snowballs have enough moisture to hold their form.
They are quite heavy, but not too heavy, so they can't be very hard. They must be broken when they hit.
The sport is not without its hazards.
The most important is the helmet. If we hit in the head, it doesn't hurt.
The Finnish team might have won this game. But win or lose, the battlefields of Yukigassen have the power to unite, not divide.
Yukigassen is now in my heart. I love Yukigassen, so I like to spread this Yukigassen. I want that kids and adults they play and say that this is fun, and that people like it.
With 7 billion people on Earth, it's a wonder that there are still corners of this planet that remain untouched. But one man has made it his life's work to see them, no matter what danger the journey may bring. Mike Lebecki has never been one to shy away from a challenge. The former National Geographic Explorer of the Year has completed major expeditions on all 7 continents. He's a modern-day explorer who puts his life on the line to challenge the idea of what humans are capable of enduring. His goal? To seek out the Earth's last truly untouched places.
I grew up in California, about 30 miles from Yosemite National Park, the center of the universe for climbing. My friend's older brother's friend happened to take us out rock climbing one day. Totally random, I didn't even know what rock climbing was, and it changed my life that day. As soon as I came home from my first day of climbing, I was buying a climbing rope, climbing shoes, harness, climb, climb, climb. That's all I could think about. And that basically evolved into living in Yosemite, climbing El Capitan and Half Dome, and I think, oh my gosh, I could take this climbing all over the world.
Lebecki's passion for adventure has taken him around the planet to nearly 100 countries. But he's not content with following traditional routes. His specialty is bagging first ascents.
First ascent is basically climbing a route or going to the top of a mountain no one's climbed before. So truly going into parts of the planet that no human has been to before. It really takes every single thing that you have. I mean, these aren't just first ascents. These are the most remote, most demanding first ascents and climbs on the planet. There is no rescue possibility. We're 100% self-reliant. And I'm not seeking danger or death. I'm seeking the ultimate challenge and the ultimate mystery of what's out there.
From the blistering heat of Afghanistan
Sure got hot quick.
to the extreme cold of Canada,
The weather is getting worse, and it is cold up here.
the climber-turned-explorer's trips have taken him through every climate. But in his expeditions, Lebecki has learned to love conditions like these.
Did this incredible trip to a place called Queen Maud Land, Antarctica. The most remote big wall climbing place there is on the planet. And I think it's technically one of the windiest places on the planet. Heavy, crazy winds that are 100, 120 miles an hour. That is some very real deal environment to be in. You will freeze quick. And so there are these winds called katabatic winds. There is just hammering and hammering at all times. And they come from the South Pole and they're pushed out towards the north through different channels around Antarctica. And we happened to be in this sort of fjord-like valley where the winds were just, channeling down, and it was the most challenging environment I've ever been in. The cool thing about being in an environment like that with the right equipment is you start to acclimate into these conditions. You start to get used to it and start to understand how it's working.
Up here just near the summit in Queen Maud Land, Antarctica, on a beautiful, sweet wall.
You sort of make a friendship with this environment. I have thousands of maps downstairs, and it's just constant planning and constant research. There's an incredible amount of physical demand. I'm carrying 100-pound loads for 80 miles, climbing these big walls, enduring all of the weather and the environments.
Looks like a storm is upon us. We're a little bit delirious, cold, dehydrated.
One of the things I have to do is train. I have to be physically fit to have this lifestyle. And one of my favorite ways is to train with my dogs. I have a mother and daughter dog, Scree and Glacier, and they're my favorite training partners. And we get out in the mountains literally every single day that I'm home. And you really have to work hard or you will suffer out there. Being an explorer has a lot of responsibilities. It's not just going out and climbing and exploring. It's getting people excited to care more about the planet and being able to share these stories about the remote places or these remote cultures.
With 23 more trips in the works, Lebecki is likely to reach his goal of 100 expeditions before long.
I'm self-diagnosed with OECD, and that's obsessive expedition climbing disorder. It's my fuel of life. I've often thought about when will I stop going on these expeditions, and it's basically when will the passion stop. I hope it never does, because this is a passion. This is what I love. This is what drives me. You gotta live a sweet life.
Right on, brother. First ascent, first time on the summit. Loving life.
This is the story of a plant, but not just any plant. It is the story of a plant that long, long ago once ruled the world. A plant that today is the very last of its kind.
It's this plant behind me, Encephalatus woodii, E. woodii for short, and I've been looking after it for over 20 years. It was named for British botanist John Medley Wood, who in 1895 discovered it growing on a hillside on the coast of South Africa. The strange, handsome plant caught his eye, and he carefully removed a small portion of it and had it shipped all the way to London, to here, Kew Gardens, where it's been for the last 117 years. But its history goes much, much further back. You see, Encephalatus woodii is what is known as a cycad, and cycads have been around for 300 million years. As the millennium rolled on, cycads flourished, providing shade for triceratops, a perch for pterodactyls, and a tasty snack for brontosauruses. At one point during the Jurassic, cycads made up 20% of all the plants on Earth and covered every corner of the globe. But the good times couldn't last forever. The dinosaurs went extinct. Ice ages came and went. New modern plants like conifers and fruit trees started pushing cycads out, and the once proud population of E. woodii were reduced and reduced and reduced until there was possibly only one left, one single solitary E. woodii growing quietly on a hillside. Which brings us right back to John Medley Wood. At the time, he had no way of knowing just how rare his discovery was. But expedition after expedition in search of more E. woodii have proved fruitless. You see, cycads are dioecious, meaning you need separate male and female plants to create a new one. And this one happens to be a male, a true lonely bachelor. If a female mate cannot be found, it really will be the last of its kind. To this day, researchers are still looking. After all, it's a big world and might just be a chance. In the meantime, he'll have me to keep him company.
The oceans occupy over 2/3 of our planet, but they're in trouble. Coral reefs are dying at an alarming rate, and the fish species that rely on these aquatic environments are suffering. So what if the solution was art?
I think what's really interesting about having a museum underwater, it's not just about its artistic value, it's also about biology and its science. They're living, breathing entities.
By putting his sculptures underwater, artist Jason DeCaries Taylor has become the ocean's unlikely hero. His installations are providing new homes for marine life, and his art is giving the ocean a fighting chance to thrive.
I consider myself first and foremost a sculptor, an artist. That's my background and training. And I've done a lot of snorkeling and diving. When I was young, we moved around the world as a family. We lived in Malaysia and Thailand, and we used to explore all the coral reefs along there. For me, being underwater has almost been like a kind of religious experience. I was very much fascinated in working with the sea, using my work for not just for artistic purposes, but also as a tool for conservation.
His big idea? Place his eccentric sculptures underwater so that coral and other sea creatures can make them home.
I started with small projects, and I realized that, as soon as you immerse your works into this new environment, everything completely changes. They are transformed, they really take on the characteristics of the environment. I call it a museum for sort of many different reasons. I think when we put something in a museum, we have a different relationship with it. We want to protect it and we want to cherish it. We want to conserve it.
Over the last 10 years, Jason has opened 3 other museums throughout the Caribbean. In 2016, he turned his attention to the Atlantic Ocean.
We're currently here in my studio, which is in Lanzarote, part of the Canary Islands. I'm always looking for the sort of new challenge, the new adventure, a new environment for my work. There's no corals here. When I first came here, I dived the sites we were looking at, and it really was really desolate. I was just swimming over sand for quite some time.
Jason will create 300 sculptures as part of Museo Atlantico, his new underwater museum. And while his art has the ability to regenerate marine life, his process is far from simple.
Finding the site is the most important thing. We're always looking for areas where we're not inflicting any damage on the existing marine life. We try to work with areas that are completely desolate. My sculptures are based on life models. And so people come to the studio, we actually cover them in a dental solution, make an impression of their bodies. And then with that, we actually fill the molds with a special type of marine cement. And this cement is pH neutral. It doesn't damage the environment anyway. And it actually provides the perfect habitat for marine life to attach and to grow. I'll make certain ledges, substrates that will actually attract sponges, little holes and nooks and crannies that will attract different species of fish and crustacean. We then have to transport them to the site. They're pieces that we've worked hard at in the studio for many months. They become very personal to you, and then it's kind of this process of letting go, saying goodbye. They're about to start a new journey. So the sculptures change rapidly once they're underwater. Here in Lanzarote, we've seen some really incredible results. Just after 2 weeks, there was significant transformations. We've seen a lot of different types of algae. We've seen some sponges adhere to them. Marine life is actually changing the surfaces, adding patinas, morphing the forms, and they make the whole sort of sculpture become alive. But I wasn't quite expecting how dramatic they would change and how beautiful a colonization would actually look. You can't get a better co-collaborator than nature.
Jason's art doesn't just support marine life and promote ocean health. It attracts tourists, which can be a very powerful tool for raising awareness.
I kind of really like the idea of, instead of us always being apart from natural environments, it's kind of, we are nature, we are all part of the same system. By putting my work into these difficult to access places, I hope people will have a better understanding and really realize what an incredible resource our oceans are and how desperately urgent it is to try and protect them.
Wayne Adams and Catherine King don't live in your typical house, but this is their dream home, Freedom Cove, a floating island completely off the grid. It's nearly an hour to the nearest town, Tofino, British Columbia, an area known for its mild summers and wicked winters. But this married couple doesn't mind the elemental extreme. They embrace it.
We live in a secluded cove. The only options we have to get here is by water. There are no road accesses. The water is our highway.
24 years ago, we both knew that we wanted to live out in nature. We have carved a piece of the world out for ourselves. We can live uniquely, differently than anyone else on the planet. If we had to survive on just exactly what we have here, we could. We have our main living house. We have our woodshed. We have 4 greenhouses. I am able to grow all year round. This is a temperate rainforest climate, so we do get snow. It will freeze, but it never lasts for long, so all the plants can tolerate that. Everything that you see here in our home is floating. We are tied to shore with lines. We are not anchored. The way Wayne has the ropes arranged is what slows down the impact of the wind. We get hurricane force winds in here in big storms. It's a narrow entrance into this cove. The wind rockets in and whips around and changes direction. So it can be pretty fierce.
Everything's done with a hand-saw and hammer. No power tools. I know every board and nail by name. It's about 500 tons that I'm floating. I don't get seasick when I go to town, I get land sick. The thing about living in Clackwood Sound on the west coast of Vancouver Island, it's the richest biomass on Earth. So the opportunity to fish for dinner is big. I just can get in my canoe and paddle out in 10 minutes, I can catch a fish. But when it's windy and too rough out there, I can just lay on the couch and fish out of the house.
There's no quick fix living out here. You have to do the work to get what you want, if you want it.
It was a great opportunity to actually move away from the city to see if we could prosper out here. Now, 24 years later, we're still doing it.
I can't imagine living any other way. I feel completely fulfilled.
Oh, that's good, huh? That's really nice. I'm working on it.
Roman Lacombe is a man on a mission.
Air pollution is an environmental issue, but most of all, it's a health crisis.
More than 5 million people die every year from pollution-related illnesses. Roman wants to change that. He has designed a system to help humans learn more about the air they breathe. And he did it in the most unconventional way imaginable, using pigeons wearing tiny backpacks.
I will never look at pigeons ever again like I did before.
London, like many cities, has a problem: pollution. It's so bad here, it kills nearly 10,000 citizens a year.
The problem about the weather and pollution is they interact together and sometimes create episodes of very high pollution.
London weather is notoriously fickle, and pollution levels change with the weather. Rains wash up pollutants, and winds sweep them away. Roman wanted to make the invisible visible. To do that, he found a way for people to know when the air is particularly toxic. Enter the Pigeon Air Patrol.
The Pigeon Air Patrol was this brilliant, crazy idea to fly a flock of pigeons over the city of London with tiny little backpacks to measure air pollution.
Roman outfitted a flock of 10 birds to fly around London to monitor air quality in real time. They wore special backpacks equipped with sensors to measure pollutants like ozone and nitrogen dioxide. And they weren't just ordinary birds. They were highly trained racing pigeons.
We worked with Brian, expert pigeon fancier who's been very widely recognized in that field. These are professional pigeons. They race, they know how to always home back to their home base. We had an entire patrol of pigeons: Coco, Norbert, Julius.
When the pigeons took to the sky, the data they collected was instantly accessible to anyone on the ground. Citizens could tweet the Pigeon Air Patrol, and the nearest backpack sensor would respond with readings from low to extreme.
Thanks to this, people tuned in to know when's a good time to go running and when you can bike without worrying about pollution, or when you should really take extra care about the air you breathe. The Pigeon Air Patrol was just a starting point. So of course the Pigeon Air Patrol was not fixing pollution in London, but by bringing attention from everyone about this topic, we make it easier for citizens to demand change. And so we make it easier for everyone involved to say there's an issue there, we should recognize it, we should address it, and then we can fix it. If we could only make more people care about what they breathe, then of course it becomes easier to collectively address the issue. And that's why the pigeons are the heroes of this story and so important. They really carried this message, that if we can care more about our environment, then we'll make our health better for everyone.